Hello, everyone, and welcome to Todd Allen, Professor Econ. Welcome to my channel. And we have a very, very interesting guest with us today. You see on the screen is KingzNdreamz on YouTube and Instagram. James Myrtle is a content creator extraordinaire on YouTube and Instagram, and he specializes in content relative to the Manosphere. James, welcome to the Todd Allen Show. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. Thank you, Todd Allen, for having me. Extremely happy to be here, brother. Extremely happy to be here.
Now, full disclosure, James, this is the first time that I've actually will be talking about the Manosphere. So I'm excited, but I'm nervous at the same time. Let's talk a little bit about how you got started with this particular content, and let's talk about your channel.
Okay, absolutely. So I started my channel. Late July of last year, and so for the past almost year. Wow, it'll actually be a year next month. Time flies. But for the past year, I've been posting content that relates to topics that involve men and women, and then also traveling. And I also talk about men's health, lifestyle, as far as them being the best versions of themselves, and
Right.
how I got into that content. How I got into that content is uh, actually one of my very good friends. He's a content creator, and so he is a world traveler. So I would travel with him, and one of the days that he would have on his shows, he would talk about modern dating. And so
You talking about Andre?
no, actually I'm talking about the Flyboy way, actually.
Okay, well let's give them pub too.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the Flyboy way, and also shout out to Andre as well. Yes. So
Yeah, love crossing borders. Yes, sir.
yes, for sure, for sure. So definitely shout out to both of those brothers, because I actually knew them before I was a content creator myself.
Right.
So with Flyboy, he would have Modern Dating Wednesdays on his channel, and so I would join his panels, and so this was something that I took an interest of speaking about. So he was the one who really kind of helped me and gave me the fuel, the battery, if you will, to
Yeah.
start my own channel.
So you've been doing this for a year.
Right.
Why the Manosphere?
Well, interesting enough, Todd, I believe that the topics that I would say most men, because not all manosphere content creators are my cup of tea. But what I would say is that for for the most part, it's a place where men, and now I'm starting to see a lot of women get involved, and we are starting to have these topics and open conversations with each other. And for a while, I've just been of the belief that men and women have been talking at each other, and now it's time to talk to each other.
Okay. Explain that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you look at kind of like daytime television, a
Right.
lot of daytime television is more or less kind of focused more or less on woman centric, and not really giving men the proper platform to speak. And I believe that what the Manosphere platform has done has allowed men to have that safe space to speak. And now that it has evolved, right? So now that women who are starting to become more like-minded as far as the gender roles and the hierarchy, they're starting to be involved in the conversation, which is why I stated that we're starting to have conversations where we're talking to each other as opposed to talking at each other. Daytime television, men who watch that, we feel like we're being talked at, not talked to.
Okay, understood. Um, you see a lot of times where there might be some sites where people are looking for some advice, some psychological advice or some relationship advice, where they're talking about there may be problems between a man and a woman. And it seems that most of the advice that has been given or has been given, at least in the past, has really vilified men. How
Right.
do you address that? That men have been beaten down or have had a sense of being beaten down for such a long period of time that in many instances, if they do speak up for themselves, then they're labeled as being anti-woman, or they're being labeled as not liking Black women, or hating or something like that. I'll give you an example. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. You know, he was probably one of the more popular in this particular area,
Correct.
but upon his death, the vim and vigor and hatred came out from all over the place. What are your thoughts about what I just mentioned?
Right. Well, so one of the things that I would say, and rest in peace to Kevin, is that he really put, I would say he popularized uh, the manosphere content, and these were things that men have been saying for years.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a way of articulating himself to where he was able to get the message. And yes, his audience was predominantly Black people, but you see people from all across the world. So it's not just the United States or North America. You had people from all across the world who reached out and really said that, you know, Kevin helped them in their marriage. Husbands became better husbands, wives became better wives. And it's very unfortunate that we have people in our own community who vilified him, where he wasn't able to defend himself. Now, I know some of the things that he said were probably for shock value, but that doesn't make them any less true. And I believe that a lot of the modern women were not used to being addressed in the way that he would address them.
Mm-hmm.
So they were really kind of taken aback, where as opposed to men, if we try to address them, assertively before, as you said, like we would be kind of anti-feminist or anti-woman or not liking women or things of that sort.
Right.
No, it's just that, if we speak with authority, that doesn't mean that we dislike you. It's just that we are just speaking because we want to make sure that we're getting our respect, the same respect that we're giving you.
Absolutely. I want to mention. I'm going to use three words. I'm just going to come up with three words or
Okay.
phrases, if you will, and just address these definitions, if you will, how you would define them, James.
Okay.
Simp.
So how I would define a simp is a man who is not focused on his purpose, and he is either overutilizing his resources to obtain, in this case, it would be a woman.
Okay, because you mentioned something like this in one of your posts on your YouTube page. And folks, please go to KingzNdreamz on YouTube. Great content there. But you said that sometimes when a man is overly focused on a woman, he's actually paying for her to laugh at his jokes.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Explain that.
So what I was saying was, and I remember the conversation. I actually was talking to a fellow traveler. Shout out to Jew Travels, and I was talking to him in reference to how men simp. So when you are overutilizing your resources, the woman's gonna she's gonna laugh at your jokes, and it's not genuine, right? So I mean, let me say this. Now, men, you have to have some sort of money when you are courting a woman, right? But what I'm saying is that if you are paying her rent, paying her phone bill, and you're giving her all of these resources, and she's not reciprocating in a way that you would want, so you're on the losing end. Sure, she's gonna laugh at your jokes, stroke your ego a little bit. So that's why I say that would be the equivalent of a simp.
Okay. Okay. Next phrase, boss bitch.
So that would be for for the modern women who think that we as men want them to be goal driven. And there's nothing wrong with necessarily having goals, but the thing is that the goals that men usually want and men of caliber usually want is a woman to be submissive, or we can say willfully compliant. So we want that, uh, being able to keep us inspired, right? Perfect example. Now you are a professor, correct? You're a
Correct.
professor, and I know, and if a woman wanted to obtain you, what I would say to her is, maybe become a TA, maybe become, in that way. So this way, like she's around you, and you'll be able to notice her.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, put yourself in that path. So if I was talking to a lawyer, a shout out to lead attorney, I would say, if become a paralegal, go to school to become a paralegal if you want to lead attorney. You know what I mean? So basically, put yourself in that position to be able to obtain the man that you want, as opposed to just saying like, oh, like, I'm a boss, and I'm this big time entrepreneur, and I have all these goals, and I'm driven. And again, there's nothing wrong with having some obtainable goals, but if you're so driven, it's almost as though like we're competing with each other. And men, we
Mm-hmm.
compete with men on a day-to-day basis. We don't want to come home and compete with you. This is not ESPN First Take.
Right, right.
Yeah.
This is getting so good, man. I added two more. I added two more things. This is the third one.
Okay.
Alpha male.
Alpha male is a male that's confident, a male that is on his purpose, a man that is driven, a man that sets goals for himself and is working towards or is obtaining those goals,
Okay,
and also surrounding himself with men who are like-minded.
okay. Two more, and the
Sure.
last one is going to be quite controversial, I'm sure.
No
Uh,
worries.
but before that, 50-50. The term 50-50.
I just there's no 50-50 at all. There's no equal, and that's okay. And this is one of the reasons why I started to have the conversation on my channel about these things, because some men, and even myself, years ago, I would think that things were actually 50-50, and I just realized that hypergamy is real, and I've come to the terms to accept it. It just is what it is. But
Yeah.
there's no such thing as 50-50. Not at all. So I would say 50-50 is non-existent.
So that's interesting because you included the term hypergamy, and I wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
Um, you keep mentioning the modern male or the modern female, and I want to talk about that term modern. Is that synonymous with the concept of hypergamy in your view?
I would say yes. So it's synonymous with the concept of hypergamy, and it's also about how things are in these days. So a modern woman would be considered anyone that's really born from like the early to mid 80s to present.
Okay. And
Modern men and women, rather.
okay, so the concept of modern is something comparative to being old fashioned. Then is that the difference between something that is be considered modern versus what?
Right. So okay. So I think I understand where you're going with this. So the thing is, so when I say modern, so I'm talking about people who don't have traditional values. So you have the modern day values, where you kind of mentioned 50-50, right? So growing up traditionally, it wasn't 50-50. It was known in the household that the man was head of household, and the woman was head of inside of the household. The woman took care of inside the house, the men took care of outside of the house,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it was not 50-50. They understood their roles and things of that sort. So when I say modern, I'm talking about where people, people are using that are using the 50-50, right? Are using the 50-50, saying that, oh, I want a partner, as opposed to I want a husband. So like the term partner, I for me, I don't like that term, because it makes it seem as though like it's a business,
Right.
and it's not a business, because any business, there's only one CEO, and then there's a COO, CFO, and all that. But there's a hierarchy,
Right.
right? So if you get on an airplane, there's not, there's a pilot, there's a co-pilot, but people know that the pilot is the one that's really flying the plane.
Right. Right. Do you think that that might be one of the major issues with these modern day relationships? Is that no one's actually flying a plane?
Yes. What ends up happening is that both parties are jousting for control, and it doesn't help the relationship at
Right.
all.
Right. Right. Um, Last term,
Sure.
submissive.
Submissive and or willful cooperation, but what does
I like the way you added that. Willful cooperation.
right. Right. I'm trying to look out for your channel too.
Good looking out, bro.
Right. Yeah. So what that word means for me is, when a woman is allowing the man to lead and guide her, and if they have a family in that relationship, being able to, go into his guidance, and being able to be on his program. So if he says, if you guys live in New Jersey, and you guys, there's a better opportunity for him in Texas, you trust that he's going to be able to uh, put the family in the best position possible in Texas. There's not that pushback. A little bit of pushback, and you say, oh, okay, have you, have we taken a look into Texas or something like that? But as opposed to just saying, no, I'm not going, and I'm going to stay in New Jersey. See, that's not being submissive, because you're not trusting him to lead the family.
Right. And there is a big word that you use, the term trust. I mean, do do men and women today actually trust one another?
I think that's subjective, and let me tell you why. The reason why I would say that it is subjective, and I would say that we we trust we trust what we think, what we want to see. For an example, right? So when I've asked modern day women what do they bring to the table, they'll say that, you know um, boss, I'm a boss, I'm a hard worker, I'm ambitious, right? And they think that that's what we want to see, but they're really holding a mirror up to the man that they want, because the man that, for men that want to be with them, want them to be friendly, want them to be cooperative, want them to be inspirational. So that's why I say trust is subjective in that manner, because from the man standpoint, if we are seeing um those those traits that a man would have, sure, the man's gonna have fun with the woman, because men, we're hunters, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that he's gonna keep her around.
Right. How has the government really screwed up relationships between black men and black women?
Great question. So, with the government now, the government has basically allowed black women to become lazy, to be defiant, And when I I mean, I'm sure some of your viewers have probably heard from Black women and some women of color have said, "Oh, I don't need a man. You don't need a man," but yet you are getting assistance from the government and your rent is only $30 a month. So that man is still paying your rent. So essentially, taxpayers,
Mhm.
like you, myself, we're really paying their rent. So you do need us.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, I'm just trying. I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go here,
No worries.
because this is an important topic, and I'm given all of the publicity around. Again, rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Given a lot of the information about what he was talking about, and a
Yep.
lot of people talking about this particular topic. It seemed to me that now it may appear to be a subject or topic that a lot of people want to avoid having open and honest conversation about. Yet, as you and I were talking before the show, the problem doesn't necessarily stem from women in particular, but it's a particular type of culture as it relates to women. And let's talk about that. The Western mentality
Hmm.
versus other mentality that women have in the relationship with men.
Right.
What do you see as a major difference? Because I know that you have experience with westernized modern women and then also other cultures. How could you address that as being part of the major difference in how westernized women manage their relationships?
Right. Great. Another great question. So for the westernized woman, what I have noticed is that um, they have been taught, uh, teaching the woman to focus on school, focus on a career, and then when they get into maybe their mid to late 30s, then get a man. What ends up happening is that whole time where you've been so focused on school and or a career, you you basically didn't really show that you were that serious about having a man. And so now the men who you want the younger version of you. And so in the westernized cultures, I would say that that's being taught, and that's being heavily influenced. And I believe that really started from the modern day feminist movement,
Hmm.
where it's been taught, like, we to compete with a man as opposed to compare with a man.
Okay, so your travels, what has been your experience in terms of how women from other cultures have related to you?
Right. So, one of my favorite countries that I frequent is Colombia, and I have, and so I have an apartment that I rent out in Medellin. And so I'm in a relationship with a nice young lady there, and for her background, she was raised to make sure that when she cooks, she serves her brothers, she serves her father, she serves any male in the house, that she makes sure that she serves them. And just those things, I think, like, where that can something simple like that can really affect the psyche in a negative or in a positive way. And so for her, it has affected her in a positive way. And she's not combative, she lets me lead, she listens. And when she speaks, and when she has something to say, she says it with femininity. She doesn't say it in a combative way. So,
I was going to say, clear that up. What do you mean in a feminine way?
oh, she doesn't say it in a combative way,
Uh-huh.
where it's not where, like, I feel like I'm being challenged.
Uh-huh.
Salute to you, garden scientists. Appreciate you for coming through. But yes, so it's like I don't feel like I'm being challenged when she speaks. Now we don't always agree on everything. Sure, I mean we're all human, right? So and I'm sure that there's some days where she may not necessarily feel like cooking for me, but she knows that I traveled to visit her, so she gets up and shows, and that's one of the ways how she shows her appreciation.
So would you say? I mean, there was a very popular book that talked about the five love languages.
Right.
Would you say that from your experience, other cultures have kind of embraced that concept of love languages as opposed to the westernized woman? Or, I mean, is that something that you could speak to or not?
Yeah, so I would say that the love language is the love language at, for more traditional places where pardon me, more traditional places where they will they will cook and clean and take care of the household and take care of the children. It comes so naturally. It comes so naturally, and they're just dependent on making sure that you as the man are taking care of house and home, and you don't necessarily have to be a well-off man, but just be a hard-working man. Just
Yeah.
be able, just being able to have a decent roof over their heads, and they'll appreciate it. I mean, living in New York, I see so many different walks of life, right? And so like I've seen I've seen the man selling selling fruits all day, and then he'll go home to a house to a small home, and his wife has a nice meal for him, just showing that appreciation.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I can attest to here in Colombia as well in terms of culture is that you know two of the most important meals of the day are, as you know, breakfast and lunch,
Hmm.
desayuno y almuerzo,
Yep.
and those meals are typically eaten as a family. Period.
Right.
And just to see the level of concern that my wife has in just making sure that she prepares a good breakfast or a good lunch for the family is you know in western culture, in today's modern western world, they may look at that as being, quote, subservient and being less than honorable. But
Hmm.
I think that for one thing that I see in my wife, she takes pride in that. I mean,
Right.
she literally takes pride in making sure that her house is organized, and that that the meals are cooked, that things are done relative to the household. That seems to be something that has been woefully missing in the Western world. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and and kind of going back into what I was saying earlier, like there's nothing wrong with a woman having goals, but as I mentioned, if a woman wants to be with a lawyer, go to school and be a paralegal. If you want to be a doctor, at the very least, be a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. So but and then you can help him. You can help him with his practice if he's a doctor. He can get he'll be able to possibly open up multiple practices. But like if you're showing now, if a woman comes to me, right, and if a woman comes to me, and let's just say for an example, I happen to be a doctor, and she says, James, I'm going to go to school and to become a nurse so that I can help you be the best version of yourself. That is so inspirational. Like that's gonna make me feel even more inspired
Hmm.
to do more, because
Right.
she wants to help me and she wants to help our legacy, especially if we have children or planning on having children.
Right. Right. We have we have a question from Trader Reg. It says, "Do you think the '70s and '80s hurt the black family, where men were taken out of the house? Are we seeing the generation breakdown of this?" Thank you, Reg, for that question.
Yeah, shout out to you, Trader Reg. And yes, I would say so. I believe that this is a product of, kind of everything that we were talking about. The black male being taken out of the house, the welfare, the welfare replacing, the government replacing the black man, if you will. So it does take a part in that, and we are seeing a breakdown of that. And what my plan is to do is to, continue to have these conversations so that we can turn the tide. Do I think things will ever go back to being the same? Not necessarily, no. But I do care about my people, and I care about people as a whole, because we are so much better together than apart.
So, how would you address a woman who had not had a relationship with her father, but yet she wants to have a relationship with a man? How would you advise her to go about having a quality relationship with a man if she's never really been around any type of father figure?
Well, what I would do is, advise her, to one, go to and talk to a male therapist, and also try to see if she can surround herself with the type of men that she would want to marry, like, for a like-minded man. So if she wanted someone that was an average earning man, put yourself around some average earning men. If you wanted a man that is higher value, put yourself around higher value men. But the most important thing is to talk to that male therapist first.
Mhm. So, how do you address? How would you address a woman who believes that she's of quote unquote high value, but she may not necessarily be as high a value as she thinks that she is?
Well, what I would tell her, what I would tell her is, so have you had conversations with the high value men that you want, and have you asked them what they have thought of you, and what do they want from you? What have your past relationships been like?
Mhm.
Has it been something to where the man wants to take you seriously, or is it something where the man is just kind of enjoying his time with you?
Mhm. So, do you think that in general there's I would say a short list of what men really want? Because I know that women believe that they know what men want,
Right.
but in actuality, how would you explain what men really want in a relationship?
What I would say is that we want peace. We want
Say
we
that again.
we we want peace, peace, uh, peace. A nice home that's clean. Um, a nice meal. Uh, Friendly. Cooperative. Again, it's inspirational, because if you're getting a man that's going to be higher caliber, keeping him inspired does help as
Yeah.
well. So our list is pretty short.
Yeah. I would add one thing to that. I would add that we don't want another mother. We already have
Yes.
one.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Don't mother us. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
Um, so, you know, I come from a more traditional place, if you will.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I believe that men are warriors. I mean, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that as a man, I have certain responsibilities to friends and family. That I believe that family comes first, and I also believe that um, I have to operate in my purpose.
Right.
And my purpose is, whatever the God-given talent is that I have. From a traditional perspective, my desire was, because I have that now, is for a woman to be supportive, but to be her own person as well. I'm not looking for someone to be a slave or someone to be, at my beck and call whenever I desire. But I'm looking for someone who will help me to build the plane while we're flying it, as opposed to taking the bolts out of the wings on the other side while we're trying to fly the plane. But that ideology is considered chauvinistic. How do you help a man like myself who has this warrior mentality or this more protective ideology of how a man's supposed to be toward the family, but yet maybe being labeled as being chauvinistic in certain spheres? How would you help that man?
Well, what I what I would tell that man is you can't please everybody, and I would completely agree with him, because the thing is that, like, you want a woman that's, friendly, inspirational, and things of that sort, but you want her to also have an identity outside of you, because you don't necessarily want her under your thumb all the time. She needs to have her own thing going on. Maybe, hang out with some of her girlfriends for lunch or something. You know what I mean? She has to have her own hobbies, right?
Right.
So I completely get that. But so what I would encourage that man is that, stand your ground. Stand your ground, because if this is something that you want, then you're not doing anything wrong. And I think that one of the reasons why things have been the way they are up to this day is because when men get labeled when men get labeled these chauvinistic or things of that sort, we tend to, we tend to cower down as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because that we don't want to say anything. It's just that because we know that the backlash is just going to be so dominant. But
Right.
the thing about it is that with channels like mine and channels like Kevin and so on and so forth, like I'm starting to see more men starting to really stand their ground, and
Yeah.
that's what we need.
Yeah. Definitely. I know that for my circle of friends, my circle of friends is very, very small, but we
Mhm.
hold one another accountable, even not just in our friendship with one another, but even in the relationships that they may have with women, um, because we're not afraid to tell one another, brother, you were wrong.
Right,
Right?
right, right.
Do you see that happening with modern day women?
I am I am starting to see it a little bit more. I'm actually starting to see some female content creators talk about manosphere and womansphere ish content. So I am starting to see a little bit of that trend, which does give me an inkling of hope.
I just want to say this, and I know that it's going to upset some people. For women to talk about, quote, the women's sphere is like saying that we need more white programming on TV. Everything is about the women's sphere,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So,
No, that's
uh,
that, that that's a that's a great statement. So what I will say in all seriousness, but what I am starting to see is woman actually understanding what, men like you, myself, Kevin Samuels, and amongst others, are saying and are thinking, right?
right. Uh-huh. Yeah. Garden scientist agrees with me. We got another question here.
Sure.
Let me
I, I
pull that
think
up.
I think there's two.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's Trader Reg again. What can we do as black men to be better leaders or help our women with this? Is is it set things straight from the beginning on how you would like to try to teach and grow the women? How do we as men kind of help them to learn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would say, great question, Trader Reg. What I would say is having that full transparency, and if this is, and if this is a woman of quality, a woman that you want, a woman that you want to pursue and take seriously, let her know what it is that you want. Let her know what it is that you want, and let her know what it is that you'll stand for and what you won't stand for.
You know,
Because
that's awesome. Go ahead. I'm going to let you finish. I want to just comment on what you just said. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, what I was gonna say was that because, and this is gonna be an unpopular opinion, but the thing is that there are more women in the world than men. So that what that means is that we actually are the ones that actually get to choose, right? Because there's some women that I would hear on different platforms, even call up the Kevin's show and say, oh, I have three potential suitors that want to marry me, right? But none of them ask you to marry them. So that's really just a man blowing smoke, because some men will just blow smoke because they want to continue getting what they want, and that's just transparency.
You can't be telling all our secrets, James. Come on. Come on. Trader Reg again. How do we get this woke culture to understand we are destroying the Black family structure? That's a great comment.
Yes, it is.
That's a great
Yes,
comment.
it is. Yes, it is. I would say Trader Reg is continue to have these conversations, you know on these platforms, and hopefully we can push someone to mainstream platforms, because I believe that was one of the directions that Kevin was heading to. Luckily, we do have potential candidates. I would say lead attorney would probably be one of them.
Yeah.
Mediocre tutorial and reviews would probably be one of them. But we do need to continue to, we have to continue to break down the wall. And because the thing is, if we just not do anything about it, it's just going to continue to happen. And then we have to hold ourselves accountable, because we're going to be part of the problem. So we have to help each other. And there's always more than one way to skin a cat, right? Like, I know that you said on your channel, you don't necessarily talk about Manosphere content, right? But this is where I would kind of challenge you, because Manosphere content is not just only about modern dating. It's also about men becoming the best versions of themselves. And you're talking about how to invest and how to take care of your resources. So all of these channels, whether you're talking about finance, physical health, mental health, dating, we all need to really work together, because we're really sending one mass message.
Yeah, I received that, and I appreciate you saying that, James, because when you talk about the manosphere, it's not just about, as you said, relationships. It's about taking responsibility as a man and doing what it is that we're supposed to do.
Right.
And but the challenge for me is that is a very traditional viewpoint for me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I'm the high priest of my house. As for me and my house, like Joshua says, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing that you mentioned that was just very important early on, and I think this would be a good answer to Trader Reg's question as well, is that the difference between negotiation and begging is that when you negotiate, you're willing to walk away. If you're not willing to walk away, you're begging. And then we talked about, the word simp early on.
Right. Yes.
That is a person who's begging for the attention of a significant other.
Right.
How can a person respect anyone who's begging for their attention and not being willing to walk away?
Right. Absolutely.
So I think from that standpoint, the manosphere may be something that I start to incorporate. But I'm out of the dating game. I mean, I'm happily married now, thank God. I've found my gift, my regalo de Dios, my gift from God. Mm-hmm. But I think it still is important for me as a man to make sure that I'm on my square, that I continue to do those things which I did at the very beginning to be able to win her heart.
Right.
Then that the job is just beginning. How do you help what would you say to a young guy who's single at the moment, but who's looking. What advice could you give him from direct from Kings and Dreams and the Manosphere?
So okay, so what would you consider like a young man? Like what age bracket are we talking about? Because are we talking about like my age bracket? Because my age bracket would be between 35 and 40. Because I'm 37.
Well, I would say 35 because and this is just me. I think that a guy in his 20s, no disrespect, don't really know what he wants.
Right.
But when we
Yeah.
hit 30, we start to think, okay, we need to create some sort of a legacy because we then realize that we're not going to live forever.
Right. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. Right. Yeah. So what I would say, just to kind of circle back on the 20s, and then I'll drive my point home. So what I would say is on the man, man for 20s, understand like what understand what hypergamy is, and yes, you're gonna you're gonna be hurt for a little while, but get have fun, but with the understanding that you understand what hypergamy is, right? Well, once you get in between that 30 to 35 range, okay, now now you should have some semblance of what you want to do in life. Maybe you may not know exactly, but you want to put yourself in a position to where you're able to, where you're able to seriously earn and start to build a network around you. And then between the ages of 35 and 40, start to solidify that network. And then once you solidify that network, you're gonna put yourself around those like-minded men, and trust me, the caliber of woman that you want will notice you, and she will,
Right.
she will
Right.
make herself be noticed.
Let me throw this out at you. For a guy in his 20s, he could more likely attract an older woman,
Right.
and she may not necessarily want to marry him, but she will have some sort of a relationship with him.
Right.
Because a younger guy in his 20s, if he's looking for a woman in her 20s, um, they're both, in my view, they're both at a place where they really don't, neither one of them really know what it is that they want. So it makes it so they're both learning about relationships at the same time, and that could be problematic. But I would also say for a woman, she also needs to understand and to realize, and as you said earlier, that there are more men than there are women.
No, woman than men.
I'm sorry, you're right, that there are more women than there are men. I stand corrected. You did say that. That the competition is huge, and yet there may be a shelf life. Would you
Yeah.
agree or disagree with that?
I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree on that. Now,
Because
the shelf life on the woman hand, correct?
correct.
Yes, I would definitely agree on that. And I think and I think that it's interesting that you mentioned like a man in his 20s being able to have some semblance of a relationship with a woman in her 40s. Yes, I agree with that, because usually what and typically in those type of situations, because I've been in a situation like that where so this particular woman, she was actually married twice, and I was in my early 20s, so she was kind of over it as far as like getting married. She had already attempted it twice, so
Yeah.
we had fun, and we understood where it wouldn't go past where it was going to go.
Right.
Um,
In other words, you could be Mr. Right. You may not be Mr. Right, but you Mr. Right now.
yes, I like that. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great way of saying that. That's a great way of
I go
saying
back to having conversation. My brother lives in New York as well, and
that.
having conversations with my brother. I mean, he's all over the manosphere topic, and he's a good dude. But for a lot of good guys, we don't finish last. We don't get to finish because of the mindset of the modern day woman. How would you address that?
I would agree. I would agree. Well, what I would say is continue to be on your purpose. continue to surround yourself with like-minded men. And if you are able to find a like-minded man, let's say he's, let's say, okay, for example, you have a Todd Allen, right? Todd Allen has a beautiful wife. The wife sees, that you're connected with Todd Allen, so she knows that Todd Allen is not going to have someone in his network like who's not about something. So
Mhm.
the wife may say, "Hey, you know what? I have a sister, cousin, or something like that. So you can still get connections." So I would
Yeah.
just say, just continue to stand on your square, continue to be on your purpose, and continue to surround yourself with like-minded people. And also make sure that you are around people too,
Mhm.
because the thing about it is that being sociable is good. Surround yourself with people. Surround yourself with people, and that lady will find you when you least expect it.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice because it's difficult to find quality people nowadays. You would think that with the internet it'd be a lot easier, but as you know, that there's a lot of people out there who are on the gram or on YouTube who are basically just fronting,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And so one thing that a lot of people don't like to do is take time and ask questions. You have to be a sleuth to kind of figure out if this person's right for you, and don't be afraid to walk away. You know,
Right.
um, if you go where you're treated best. I think that was I was reading a book about the nomad, um, the capitalist nomad. He said you go where you're treated best, and I want to address this really quickly in regard to that, because I know that you're a very busy person. I appreciate you being on with me.
No, we got time, brother. We got time.
and I'm gonna, this is, and I know you've had this conversation. I've talked to Andre about this with Love Crossing Borders. I've talked to Chad about this passport stamps. I'm sure
Yeah,
that you've
shout out
had
the
this.
passport stamp for
Yeah,
sure.
shout out to Chad. And we've uh, a lot of brothers who are on YouTube, content creators, especially those who are in the travel space, have talked about this. Let's talk about the advantages of being a passport brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say one of the advantages of being a passport brother is, the ability to be able to walk away. Because the thing is that if you're dealing with a woman, and she's not being cooperative, and you have developed feelings for and things just aren't going well. Like, you don't have to hang back. You can go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the world, as long as you have the time and the means. But as long as you have that book, that passport. Shout out to Razor Rays. He's another content creator. He actually calls it the Infinity Stone. Yeah, he calls it the Infinity Stone. So if you have that, you definitely have multiply your options by then some. If you want to go to Africa, if you want to go to Central or South America, if you want to go somewhere in Europe, if you want to go Asia, shout out to Zoom to Thailand.
Yeah.
Very good friend of mine. He actually went out. He actually went to Thailand because he wanted to buy some property. The
Mm-hmm.
pandemic happened, and he was kind of forced to stay in Thailand. And then
Mm-hmm.
he met his lady. So he's like, well, you know what? LA is so expensive, Thailand isn't, so I'm staying. That's that.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
doing
That's
very well. He's doing very well.
doing well. And he's got an outstanding channel. You know what I would like to do one day, James, is I would like to get some of the guys that we've talked about and just do a platform like this, but just have multiple people on here and let's just chop it up. I mean,
Oh, like a panel. Oh, absolutely, for
yeah.
sure.
I mean,
For sure, for sure.
the content that you have is nothing short of amazing, and it's, I mean, quite honestly, it's good to see someone that looks like me that's actually out here doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, for so long, we have been isolated from one another, um, for whatever reason, and we think that we're the only ones, right? But we got to realize that, you know, there are a lot of people like you and I who are out here, and that the new competition is collaboration. And if we're all in, we all win, and we support one another in what we do. We'll all get to that place called success together. And I'd rather do it with my friend Trader Reg, with you, with some of the other guys that we know, like with Chad and Andre. It
Yeah.
would be nice for us all to be successful and being able to just say, hey, you know what, we're all going to meet up in Panama, or we're going to meet up in Costa Rica or some other place, and we're
Yeah.
just going to hang out for a week, man. That would be awesome. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
that'd be
You know,
awesome.
one of the things that I will say is that, you know, being a part of the travel community, and also excuse me, and also being, you know, being you know, red pill aware, it makes me it makes me feel good to see brothers who are like minded, and there's some brothers who won't, you know, who won't say that they're red pill aware, and that's okay. But like, but you can tell, like, when a man is on his, you know what, right,
Right,
on this ish.
right,
So
right,
the thing is that it feels good to see men, like-minded men, but not only that, but men who do look like you and I, and we're able to have these conversations, and have these transparent conversations, and we're from different walks of lives, and we've all had, you know, some of these similar experiences, whether it, you know, be finance, women, you know, and we all can have a space to where we can have that conversation.
right, right. Um, one final comment.
Sure.
And I want to give a shout out to Ace Live. I've been following Ace Live. I've never met him, but
Yes, I met Ace Live in Barracuda. That's my guy, Ace Live.
oh yeah, to see his growth, and he did something one day, which kind of sparked philanthropy for me here in Colombia. But I want to follow in this conversation with this comment, if you will.
Hmm.
What would an older James such as yourself now, say to a younger James if he had the opportunity to go back in time? What would you say to yourself?
I would say to myself, take you know, in your 20s, take your time. The minute you hit 30, go in overdrive.
You have to explain that. Going over time.
So basically, what I would say is that in your 20s, have, you know, have as much fun, and then in your 30s, make sure that you're continuing to build the, you know, make sure that you're continuing to to build a legacy, and make sure that you're focused on a career, something, you know, something that's gonna, or skill, career and or skill, something that's going to be able to help make you a substantial amount of money.
Right, right. James Myrtle, thank you so much, brother, for being on the Todd Allen Show. And this is being broadcast to Professor Econ and also Twitter. Brother, you know, you are a breath of fresh air. And I appreciate everything that you've done, everything that you're doing, and all the things that you're going to do. And just know, man, that if there's anything I can do for you or I can do on my platform for you, hey, man, I'm just a phone call away or a text message away. Chad introduced us, and shout out to Chad again. He's a good brother, Chad at Passport Stamps. And I just want to say, James, man, I really appreciate you. And do you have any last words that you want to leave with our viewers before we sign off?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to say, Todd Allen, thank you for having me here. Definitely appreciate you. I appreciate the channel, the chat. You know, great questions. Shout out to you, Trader Reg. You know, I don't know if you're a content creator, but you have some very good questions, by the way. So, and then also, Big shout out to Chad, Passport Stamp. He's the one that actually connected us. So definitely appreciate that, and I appreciate you. I appreciate what you have going on, and I actually I'm gonna order a few of your books on Amazon. So I got some reading to do. I got some reading to do.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Again, and I'll say this because it feels so good to see brothers like really wanting to support each other and look out for each other and help build each other up. A couple of names that we mentioned: Ace Live, Andre Love Crossing Borders. Andre is definitely a very good friend of mine. I call him my big brother.
Good brother, yeah, good dude.
Flyboy is he's my best friend. So like we have a lot of good people in this men centric, I don't want to say Manosphere all the time, but in this men centric travel community, right? So it's very good to see that.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks to all of you who are watching. Thanks to all of you who've come in and subscribed. Please be sure to subscribe to KingzNdreamz on YouTube and also Instagram. Follow this brother. Got great content. You'll be happy to follow him. Continue to follow me here at Todd Allen and also Professor Econ. We'll have more and more quality interviews such as this coming up on the show. And thank you, you all, for watching and listening. And we look forward to continuing to bring quality content to you. And just remember that we are what we continually do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Until next time, be blessed.